and welcome to the Retro Control Centre. I'm your host Denny, and today we're going to be having a look at a favourite game of mine by Jeff Minter, which is Matrix on the VIC-20. Then we're going to have an in-depth look and retrospective of the game, magazine reviews and advertisements from the period, conversions to other 8-bit formats. Then we're going to have a playthrough of all 20 levels, which is a first for the internet, and then a summary and my personal memories from the game itself. So with no further ado, let's crack on. Matrix was released in 1983 on the Commodore VIC-20 by Jeff Minter and released by Llamasoft. It's 1982, and after a slew of Commodore VIC-20 games, Jeff wrote his first of his ongoing Gridrunner franchise. This took root from the Centipede coin-op. Fast forward to 1983, and his next game in the series came out titled Matrix Gridrunner 2 for the AK VIC-20. Confusingly, Matrix was renamed Attack of the Mutant Camels for the American market, licensed to human-engineered software for distribution. This move, however, caused confusion after a later title for the Commodore 64 was also called Attack of the Mutant Camels, which was a totally different game. The aim of the game is similar to that of the coin-op. You are tasked with clearing 20 sectors of the power matrix, battling droids as they move down the grid. The droids also employ some sort of bizarre psychological disorientation tactic, sighting what appear to be camels heading down the Matrix 2. Other enemies and hazards come in the shape of a snitch which tracks your every movement after level 3. Moving into its field causes the loss of one of your lives. Deflector shields are introduced from level 5, so take care not to die by your own laser. Diagonal droid movements from level 6 also add to the mayhem and difficulty going forward. The game has 7 mystery awards to discover within the game. Each award pings a mystery bonus after each round if you are successful in finding them. Every successful round awards an extra life. The write-up of the game takes place 10 years after the infamous grid wars from the first game. As one of the few survivors, you are asked to return back to base with the news that the droids have returned, but with superior firepower and improved tactics. You are one of the newly formed squadron, codenamed Matrix. You are the last line of defence against a renewed attack. The Earth depends on your success to clear all 20 sectors and end this occupation. Reviews from the magazines back in the day were extremely positive. Home Computing Weekly enthusiastically stated, "The use of sound and colour are good, and the animation and graphical effects are brilliant." The article finishes by telling you to pawn your soul and get this game. The game was awarded top marks of 5 out of 5. Popular Computing Weekly described the game as a zap, pow, shoot and quick style of rapid what the heck is going on type of game. They thought the graphics were good and the noise is splendiferous. They also thought it was a smashing game, lots of fun, and the pick of their reviews. They also awarded top marks of 10 out of 10. The final review I could find came from Commodore User and said not to worry if the game looks confusing, as the instructions which Llamasoft provided were up to their usual high standards, and the main obstacle of the game was the Centipede creature, but there was some cosmetic cameloids thrown in as an added test. Finishing, they said the game must receive full marks for all 4 categories of 5 out of 5. A multitude of adverts graced the early magazines that were currently in circulation. One such publication was Computer and Video Games. Although some were monochrome, your eye was drawn to its functional layout, in-depth descriptions, and for its time Llamasoft's address to purchase your games. Adding 50 pence for postage was also required. Lavishly colourful adverts from Llamasoft looked sharp, which imbued a sense of want from the company's digital wares. One advert was used in a variety of colours, with a slight arrangement to the layout of the company's games with the orange background. Matrix, or otherwise known Attack of the Mutant Camels, or Gridrunner 2 Attack of the Mutant Camels in the American markets, was released onto other 8-bit computers upon release. Here's a quick look at the comparisons to the VIC-20 version. The VIC-20's bigger cousin, the Commodore 64, you'd think would outshine the VIC-20's aging architecture, but you'd be surprised to hear the VIC-20 outdoes it on both accounts. The biggest surprise is in the sonics area, which is surprising due to the power of the SID chip in the Commodore 64. It's not to say the sound effects are poor, but the VIC-20 has hard crunching sounds shooting your laser, which suit the game better, to the 60s style sound effect of the zappers, bullet forming mounds, which are nullified when shot down. These VIC-20 sound effects are joined with the between level Mystery Award sonics to the final game over screen, which sounds leave you feeling defeated in its sombering tone. The Commodore 64 sounds are adequate compared to the VIC-20, but for me the only winner here is its aging cousin. The game though is silky smooth graphically, from the animated backdrops to the movement of the enemies on the screen. Personally I prefer the bigger style graphics of the VIC-20, though this may be due to the limitations of the VIC-20's graphics set. The VIC-20 feels like the machine is punching above its weight in both the sound and graphics departments. The same can't be said about the Commodore 64 version. The one plus though is the game is less aggressive and brutal as the VIC-20 and offers better playability. The first impression you get from the Spectrum version leaves you wondering if there's any sound at all. Introduction to a zone is silent, only when you press your fire button you're greeted with what can only be described as the tweets from a caged bird. The zappers on the left and bottom of the screen and your demise are the only other source of sounds within the game. Leaving a completed zone is definitely quiet again. This is underwhelming to any adrenaline push you need for the next zone. Saying all that, the scrolling grid background is smooth, which is a great look for the game, and your ship and enemy sprites are functional and do what the game requires of them. The one time I did notice the Spectrum falter is on level 4 with the amount of camels on the screen. The camels were reduced to a flicker pad effect, though it didn't kill the flow of the game entirely. A decent attempt, but falls short of the elements needed for this type of game. Matrix was published through Salamander Software in 1984. Matrix was released in 1986 for the Commodore 16+4, and it was converted by Aaron Lidderman for Llamasoft and published by Arielasoft UK. This version came as the biggest surprise, starting off with a colourful track screen. The game goes right into the action, superb sound, though not as crunchy as the VIC-20, impeccable graphics whose graphic size are more akin to the Commodore 64, and smooth animation on the animated grid structure background. The alien pods and camels are a joy to behold as they fling themselves around the screen with no hint of slowdown. The shooting mechanic has also been altered and been refined. Now you spew a torrent of laser fire towards the enemy, which helps in the mowing down of the horde. The game looks to have been slowed down, which also helps with the playability. Mystery bonuses at the end of the round tend to ping more often too. Extra features to the play area are also included. Firstly, your ship forms together like a lander from the arcade Defender to the animated Matrix logo, which sits at the top of the playfield. Out of all the versions of Matrix, this has to be the most enjoyable to play. Playability wise, the Commodore 16 version is a dream to play. With practice I'd reach level 19 out of a possible 20. Matrix was known as Attack of the Mutant Camels for the Atari 800, converted by Jay Leonard for Llamasoft and released by Human Engineered Software in the US in 1983. On firing up the Atari 800 version, you're greeted with a decent track screen that welcomes you to the game. The things of note that stand out to you straight away with this version are the sound effects. The game effects though are not to the quality of the VIC-20s, but definitely pack a punch. In the graphics department, the grid background and the zappers to the left and bottom of the screen are buttery smooth. The animation is absolutely superb. The best, I would say, of all the versions. That's where things fall apart. Your ship, enemies, especially the camels, are absolutely shocking in design. They look poorly defined and blocky. The camels look like an infant to design them. That together with the difficulty of the game, it is extremely hard to recommend this version. The difficulty level spikes surpass even those of the VIC-20. Getting to further levels depends on luck rather than skill. You would assume that as a game that allows you to start at any level between 1 and 6, these would be a warm-up of what's to come. Sadly, you'd be mistaken. Of all the versions I've reviewed, this has to rank as my least favourite amongst them all. Shame, as a little bit of due care and attention to the graphics and difficulty, it could have been excellent. Summing up Matrix, the game is fast and fluid, has excellent graphics and stunning sound effects, something which Jeff got a reputation for. The game though is brutally hard. From the first 20 levels on offer, you can only choose the first 6 levels to start from. Difficulty is the only thing I would alter. Even level 1 poses a challenge, and not being able to choose your level from level 6 onwards makes the game next to impossible to complete. Matrix is a very special game for me. I remember buying it from Beatties in Wolverhampton at the same time I got my VIC-20. Sadly, Beatties, like my VIC-20, has seen better days and will be turned into 300 luxury apartments after the building was sold for a cut price $3 million ahead of the House of Fraser's move into the Manda Centre. I'm going to leave you with Jeff's latest version of Gridrunner, which is from the Minotaur Arcade Volume 1 together with Goat. So until next time, this is Denny from the Retro Control Centre, out.